Yo, 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 and welcome to the new episode of The Ladder, starring Lords of the Fallen, that I finished about a month ago, but didn't bother myself with actually reviewing of or stuff. So let's get straight into it. It's a Souls-like that, like every other Souls-like in terms of gameplay, though it adds some twists in terms of mechanics that I found more interesting. At the time of the video making and I think a week after finishing the game, there was a new patch dropped on the game. I haven't had the chance to play it, but apparently it dumps down the game a lot. So let's get straight into it. Pre 1.6, I think it was patch, because I have no no intention to play it after this, especially since it dumps out the most interesting part of the gameplay. So, let's start to talk about the story a little bit. It's a fairly short game. It's not that long. It follows the traditional Souls-like type of game. It's very linear in scope. It is fairly bigger, I think, than, for example, Lies of P, but much less so than other Souls-like or rather more established ones. In terms of weapon variety, it's a little bit on the lower side. You don't really have too much of a weapon variety. You have a class system that actually works very nicely. You have a shitload of classes. I think there were 7 or 8, maybe. Somewhere between 6 and 8 classes, each having their own good or bad thing. From what I've read online, I only played as the assassin type of the class, but from what I've seen, you can just go beefy and it will be much easier overall. I went for assassin, which does high damage per second, but it's very squishy, so you have to time dodges perfectly. You have to dodge. You have to time parries perfectly, and it's a little bit harder from what I've read than just your traditional beefy setup, and you just steamroll enemies. But all in all, I think the class variety is actually great. Each class feels, from what I've seen, I've also seen a lot of gameplays, and the classes really feel different. It's not the same variety, only cosmeticized. It actually feels, and you actually play the game differently when you switch up the class. It also has a mage-like class where you wield powerful spells and whatnot. So, regarding the story, it's not as comprehensive as others. It's very straightforward. It features three endings: a good one, a bad one, and a secret one. Now, all three endings are shit. Let me tell you that. No good ending. Spoilers, by the way. No, no ending is inherently good. Like they're all crap when you think about the world and what it means for your main character. But it features some interesting twists near the end of the game. Especially if you go one route, then the ending is a huge twist. Though there are signs before that. I'm talking about the Aureus ending. Now, the game itself, story-wise, isn't bad. But everything is very plain. It has some hidden bits here and there, but they're very scarce and in between, and you really have to read through the lines to understand some stuff, or to rather anticipate for some stuff. Other than that, regular Souls-like story. It's nothing great. It's not bad. But it's nothing that really stands out. And yeah, the story is okay. The gameplay I found interesting. It's your original Souls-like gameplay, though I do believe that the in most cases the parry system is or feels like it has a large window where you can parry, larger than some other games that I've played. I think it's larger than Elden Ring, for example. It's much larger than Lies of P, and I think that's good. That's good mostly because for non-Souls-like players like myself, because this is the third Souls-like that I finish. It I know works because you go into these games without having much prior experience with Souls-likes. So you're going into this game just to enjoy the experience, and when you do these things like slightly increase the parry window, slightly increase the dodge window. It makes the experience much more. It's still hard, but it is approachable, and I think that is good, especially because they also made like difficulty system, I believe, where you can tweak those things up or down, however you like. In the new patch, they even added some difficulty modifiers, I believe, specifically with number of enemies you find, number of enemies between bosses, and all that crazy shit, where I think this game doesn't do a good job in. Enemies are not well placed around the map. There's a shitload of enemies between bosses and between respawn points. So you might find yourself very exhausted when nearing bosses, for example, because you're wasting a lot of resources and time to just go through mobs, just to find yourself nearing the boss with no respawn point in sight and with very low HP. So yeah, and there's times where the bosses are very approachable, but then the mobs between the bosses are super hard to beat. And it happened a lot in early game, I think. Maybe not so much in late game. Maybe mid game a little bit, but there are enemies, regular enemies, that are much harder than regular bosses, which is kind of what? I think the game suffers though from a lack of a good level design. Because at most times the level design felt like crap, especially how the respawn points are placed around the map. You can create at times a respawn point of your own choosing, but it's only one, and it gets overwritten every time you select another. So I think that was a very nice addition as well. And the best addition regarding gameplay is the transition to Umbral. So there are two states of the world. It's the regular world, the mortal world, the world that you traverse as a as a diable. I wanted to say it's not diable, it's fucking as a mortal person. But you can switch up to the Shadow Realm, the Umbral, where everything is based on the real world, but a little bit twisted. There's a counter at the end of which, if you find yourself into, suddenly more dangerous foes are targeting you, and those are foes that you can scarcely beat. So you really have a window to stay into this Umbral mode, this Spectre world, if you must, where enemies are constantly respawning, but there are usually lower tier enemies. Here and there a strong one, but manageable. When the counter expires, then a shitload of enemies and strong ones, very strong ones, appear to destroy you, and they 99% do. Um, where I think this mechanic was well done. I think it was well done in general because in Umbrella you can also somewhat fry souls and find more bits and pieces about the lore. You can find new items that are very good. Some that even upgrade your healing pouch. So yeah, the I forgot how it's named, Sanguinaxis or something like that. But yeah, I think that transition was well. I think the idea of an Umbral was very well made. It was very interesting. It was very unique, in my opinion. I have never played any Souls like with this mechanic before, and it worked out very well. It added a little bit of a challenge because you transition into that Umber stage and you know you have to get out of there fast and continue on with the story at the same time. So, yeah, I like the little detail. Again, never played post patch, so I don't know how it is right now. But yeah, I think this is it about the game. Honestly, it's not that much. It's not a bad game. It's I've seen reviews. Probably because I play the game only now, it is playable. From what I understood, when it launched, it was unplayable. But I'm reviewing the game as it is right now, so that's both good and bad. But the game is very playable, it's very enjoyable. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I found it very accessible to players that do not usually play Souls-likes. I liked the gameplay aspects of it. I kind of liked the story as well. It was interesting, and the plot, the twists at the end are very interesting in themselves. You learn a little bit more about the bad guy who isn't really the bad guy, but again, the bad guy is the one you're serving basically. So I hope you're gonna give this game a chance because it deserves so. It's not a bad game by any means. It's actually a very interesting game. Though it's not a great game, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a great game. It does what it does well. The level design aspects of it are shit, however, and you might find yourself, at least starting with mid game, wanting to hurt yourself based on the fact that the level design is so poor. But all in all, I think decent game. It is somewhat sturdy, and I think I'm gonna give it a 7.5 rating. See ya. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. See ya.